Let's get into it. Soul Not For Sale podcast. Coach COLIN here. Joe Rogan and Tim Dillon had a conversation about an interview that Tim Dillon did, okay, with CNN. And they were talking like the interview wasn't going to come out. It was unsure if they were going to play everything or if they were just going to do a smear job on Tim Dillon. The interview is out. I have a few clips here, a few timestamps for people, and I'm going to share the title with you and everything so you can actually see this interview in its entirety, what is there, at least on CNN. But also, just want to say thanks for all the love with the Mike Plaster interview. I did that interview. I put it out on Sunday. I'm going to put another interview out on Sunday. Hopefully, I have a friend, Johnny Rogers. He's a comedian out in Ottawa, I think he lives in. Going to talk to him, see what he's all about. There's a few people that I follow on Instagram and TikTok. I'm reaching out to them, seeing if I can get some interviews there. There's somebody in one of my personal trainer, actually. I'm going to interview him. So there's a bunch of those coming. We're just going to do it weekly at first. Just get the ball rolling. For those of you that watched it, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that. There's going to be more of that to come. But let's jump into this Joe Rogan click. This Joe Rogan click? Huh? What? Joe Rogan clip. Let's go.
The woke right.
That's what I heard. There's a woke right now?
Yes, and they're
fascinating.
They're co-opting.
I still haven't accepted the fact that I've left the left.
I did a CNN interview for an hour because I'm promoting my special, and
oh
then
my God. Did you really?
Yeah, and they asked
Who'd
me.
you talk to?
This girl, Elle Reeves.
Was she cool?
Elle, she was cool. She does all the, you know, when you see the Vice documentaries where she talks to the Nazis and the incels?
Oh, Jesus, she does
It was that chick, and they sent her in.
Oh, that's a good move
I was
for
like,
them.
this is hilarious. So I'm sitting there, and she sits down, she's like, are there any left-wing comedians? And I named 10 of them that are all in arenas. And she goes, oh, because their whole thing now is that podcasters are the most powerful people in the world. And she goes, do you think you're friends of the new establishment? I said, well, there's 22 intelligence agencies, an entire legacy media. There's lots of Ivy League schools. There's this, there's that. Do I think Theo Von's the new establishment? No. I don't think so. I think you ran a really unpopular candidate. I don't think Americans like child sex changes. And I don't think they want an open border. And I think if you'd, co-opted some of those issues, you might have won. They said to me at CNN, they're like, we're editing the interview. I said, put the hour out. I sat there for an hour and we had a nice conversation, but we talked for 1 hour and I was like, put it out. I'm like, I understand if you can't put it out. And then she goes like this, she goes, I can't believe you'd show up. People have said that they can't come on here because Joe Rogan would get mad at them. I said, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Why would I care?
Said, he doesn't care. He would never care. I said,
oh, that's so silly.
It's the silliest thing ever.
They think we're at war.
I just said, put out the hour online. If you can only put out a few minutes on network, fine. But it's wrong to have someone come in and talk for an hour.
Right.
And then not
use 3 minutes.
And then use 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's
So how much did they use?
We don't know yet. They haven't put it out.
And did they say we can't put the whole hour out?
I texted this journalist and she texted me. She goes, I'm pushing for like a long form release. I go, yeah, man, just put out the interview.
Also, do you guys want ratings or no?
Yeah, we had a conversation about all these things you guys talk about.
Yeah, you guys have a website.
Then what are we doing?
Don't you have a YouTube page? Does
Put
the CNN
it out.
have a YouTube page? Put
And
the
she's like,
whole hour out.
I go, she goes, what do you think the Joe Rogan show, why is it so popular? I go, well, one of the reasons is he doesn't edit people. They're not edited. They come on, they say what they want to say, and there's no editing. So what's weird about those institutions is they will sit you down for an hour and then I guess cherry pick what they think their audience wants to see.
Well, they just want what they think is going to grab the most ratings and is not going to make them look stupid. So if you're mocking them openly,
Yeah.
And
Well, she didn't know when she said it there. She goes, comedy's right wing. I go, she goes, name left of center comedians. I named literally 8 of them, and I said they all are in arenas. I go, what are you talking about?
It's so dumb.
What are you talking about?
It's so dumb.
I was like, that's you're saying that comedy's what?
By the way, I used to be left of center according to the metrics of 2015.
I said there's a lot of Joe's positions, if you look at them, that are left of center positions, and there's a lot of my positions or anyone's positions. I said there's nobody that you can easily put in a box.
Yeah.
But they want you to be in that box.
Well, they're silly. And they also want me to be an enemy of CNN. I don't give a f*** if
You don't care who cares.
By the way, I hope CNN corrects course and does real news.
Right.
And just concentrates on the news and all this.
Yeah.
I don't want editorial comments from morons, right? So when you're force feeding me Don Lemon's opinion on how the world should be.
Right.
And how, everyone should be shamed if they don't get saying. Like,
Right.
You're force feeding me morons. Like, no matter, of course your ratings plummeted.
Yeah.
Of course, and you guys lied about so many things and never corrected yourselves.
Well, they're an arm of the Democratic National Committee, and they're an arm of that party. I mean, they're
whether they are forced to be or whether they choose to be because they identify with being Democrat and they want to skew things completely towards the left. I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is.
All of the old Bush era neoconservative people who pushed the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and the Patriot Act and Guantanamo Bay and all of this stuff all find homes usually on MSNBC or CNN advocating for war with Iran or an escalation in Ukraine. They always, so it's kind of an establishment, doesn't seem to, they don't really care about party.
Right.
And, you know.
They're doing better now, though. I mean, this when they have Scott Jennings on,
he's
he's great.
Yeah.
That's the kind of conversations you need. Completely ridiculous people who are out of their fucking minds versus Scott Jennings. Like, those are great.
You need to have some fun,
It makes these ridiculous woke anchors look retarded.
Yeah.
And they should.
There
they
are
in the world.
There are good principled arguments that against right-wing things.
Yes.
You just can't have people who are completely out of it make them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, after the election, one of my favorite ones was it CNBC or CNN? I forget what it was. But this guy was talking about this whole right-wing podcast ecosystem that's incredibly well-funded and organized. And what are you talking about? Like, you could literally go to the roots of how it all started. You could see every one of us doing our first podcast with a fucking webcam.
There's no funding. What are we talking about? What are we saying?
And even the idea that we're all organized together, or that, like, I would want to prevent people from going on CNN.
It's just silly.
I could not care less.
Because that's the way they operate. You always usually, like, a lot of times you end up accusing people of something you're doing.
Right.
So because you are familiar with that. So they're like, well, we have a top-down corporate oligarchy telling us what to do. Is that the way it works with you? Like, no, Joe Rogan doesn't email people at the beginning of the week and go, hey, guys, this is
where you can't go.
This is the most insane thing ever.
Well, not only that, like, I want them to do well. I really don't care. They obviously don't want me to do well.
Right.
But I don't care. I hope look, if they turned it around and CNN became great, I'd watch it all the time. It used to be great. It used to have parts unknown on it.
The new thing they're doing, this is a very interesting thing that's happening. If somebody says something that they don't like and they can't immediately dismiss it, they go, but the fans of that thing are bad people.
Right.
This is an interesting attack point. They go, but somebody with a massive audience, if they find a sliver of that audience to be objectionable in any way, they then go, well, the fans of that type of questioning are anti-Semitic or racist or something.
Well,
and they don't deal with the actual facts or the actual line of argumentation.
Yeah, it's just a sneaky debate tactic.
Right.
When you're dealing with, I have 19 million YouTube subscribers. How can you nail that down to the fans?
Right.
You don't know. You're just talking out of your This is a non-argument. It's a stupid point. And by the way, when you're talking about actual comments, we've already established that, I don't know what the number is, but there's a huge number of people that are commenting that aren't even people. They're bots. They're state-sponsored bots.
Yeah.
They could be from Ukraine. They could be from America. They could be from Russia. They could be from Israel.
And I want more of them.
Yeah.
So,
man, so true about the bots. The first question to you guys, do you think that Joe is actually behind the scenes getting mad at people doing certain things or saying certain things? You think that's real? You know, the fact, because here's the thing, and I don't know, I'm pretty sure I have it in a clip. The woman who's interviewing Tim, she says, oh, this is not hearsay. She actually heard this from a manager. So it's not like she's just pulling it out of nowhere. She doesn't verify the source. Of course she can't, but it just makes you think. I don't think that he's like that at all. I think comedians are just too much of renegades. You know, I could tell that Rogan doesn't like Chris D'Elia, but he still has Brian Callen on the show. Callen still works with Chris D'Elia. He still talks to Brendan Schaub. Schaub still works with Chris D'Elia. You know, so I don't know. I would just see, like, certain things that Rogan doesn't like, certain people still go along with. So if he was like that, he would probably nip that type of stuff in the bud. Although Brendan Schaub is supposedly moving to Austin, Texas, and that might break up the podcast him and D'Elia actually have together. But that's up in the air. Second thing is the ecosystem. the podcast ecosystem that they're claiming exists. It's very funny to think that there's this whole ecosystem afoot, you know? And yes, I'm standing up. Hey, what do you guys think? Quickly, I'm going to switch over to that interview. What do you think about this setup here? Like just me sitting like this. This is too away. All this should be closer together, right? Am I wrong about that? I feel like there's too much open space around here. You know what I mean? Set me right on that. Let me know what you think about that. Let's jump over to that interview real quick. There she is. Just go quick from the beginning. Copied me. CNN's been watching me. They know I've been talking about buying CNN for the longest time. I'm gonna one day. And that clap's not going to win me over, okay, Missy? Let's start from the first clip here. It is how Joe Rogan changed comedy. Huge chunk of this is focused on Joe Rogan and how he's changed comedy and all the things that he's done moving to Austin, Texas. It's very weird. Let's listen to this.
Yes, that is a question they're asking.
Of course, I'm listening to it that fast. My bad, guys. Let's go back a little bit. Let's jump over here. Slow it down for you. Let's go.
Whatever, so I think there's an intimacy to that other forms of media might lack.
So I'm sure you're aware of the where's the liberal Joe Rogan, like that whole conversation.
Yes, that is a question they're asking.
That is a question they're asking. So I mean, I was interested in that. I did a lot of research, but I think that's maybe not the most interesting question. However, I think you have to admit, Joe Rogan has changed comedy.
I think Joe Rogan has changed media.
Can you explain how that works?
Well, Joe Rogan.
I have to jump in. Do you guys think Joe Rogan has changed comedy? Do you think he's changed comedy? Stand-up comedy, sketch comedy. Do you think he's changed how that works? I don't think he has at all. And I'm in the Joe Rogan community. I'm on the Reddit. I'm in the community. Most people aren't even really interested in his comedy. I mean, I got to be real. I love Joe Rogan. I love his comedy. I love his new stuff, but there's a lot of people who love the podcast who are like, I'm just, you know exactly what I mean.
He has this amazingly popular platform where he's led by his interests, meaning like he's bringing on people that have these long form conversations. In a world where everything's like consumed in like 30-second clips or 60-second clips and 15-second clips, Joe Rogan is having 3-hour discussions with people on anything from conspiracy theories to science to paleontology. He's all over the map, but he's led by his interests and he's accountable to himself and his audience, right? I mean, he's kind of like blazed this trail of like, I'm interested in certain things and I'm going to talk about them with people who I find interesting. There's no real media that was structured like that ever, right? I mean, that's not how any of these companies were structured. It wasn't like, come on in, what are you guys interested in? Let's talk about it. It was kind of like, these are the stories and here's how we're going to cover them and here's the angles. So I think the entire structure of what Rogan has done has changed everything because it's opened up this idea that you could do that. You could pursue a strategy of talking to people that you find interesting and then growing a tremendously successful platform out of that.
Rogan moved to Austin, opened a comedy club there, and now all these comedians have moved to Austin to be part of that world.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? Like, what is that like?
I think it's like any type of clubhouse that you have, right? So you have like all of these different great clubs, and you have a Comedy Cellar in New York and Comedy Store in LA. And, he's opened a great comedy club in Austin where we have a lot of people go there to perform and to there's a lot of comedy fans that go. So he's cultivated a lot of people that want to come, and he's made it kind of a destination for people that want to see comedy.
Is it a particular kind of comedy?
I think in some cases, yes.
Like, is
right?
it anti-woke or?
I think you're far less likely to find that type. Like, the word woke is kind of a boring word, but like, I think you're absolutely more likely to find the type of comedy that Joe likes at his comedy club, which is like kind of edgy, no holds barred in the sense that like, they're not policing anybody can say anything as long as there's a good faith effort to make it funny. Mm-hmm. So I think that there are people that believe, and they're well within their rights to believe this, that there are topics and words that are off limits. And I don't think Joe feels that way. I think he feels that like the people that come into the club, if they have a good faith effort to make a topic funny or an idea funny, that they should be allowed the space to do that. And there are people that disagree with him on that. And there are places that you're far less likely to see certain topics talked about in a funny way because people just don't, they believe that they're off the table.
And like, what's your relationship with Rogan? Like, you've been on his show.
He's my father.
Well, you've been on his
We've
show.
never talked about it, and it's because I'm overweight. And he will not admit it.
He's really
but
into
he
it.
is my father. No, I've been on his show multiple. He's a great friend. I respect him, and he's been very nice and generous to me.
How does going on his show affect your career?
People, he shares his audience. He's got a massive audience. He allows you to come on and say what you want and be funny and be interesting or whatever you're going to be. And he shares his audience. It's a very generous thing to do. And there's not a lot of people who do that, by the way. There's not
Tell me more about that.
Well, there's just not tons of people at his level that give opportunities to people the way he does.
Yeah.
There are some.
But does a young comedian have to shape his act to try to
Not at
fit
all.
in that
Joe
world?
Rogan's one podcast. It's a very big podcast, but it's
Yeah.
one podcast in a world of podcasts, in a world of social media apps. There are comedians that have blown up on TikTok who are selling out theaters. That why would they need to shape their act? Me, I would never shape anything.
Yeah.
Me and Joe see a lot of things in a similar way.
Yeah.
Even though we're very different on paper, we see a lot of things in a similar way. So I didn't have to shape it. I don't think people go in there shaping. It would be probably quite obvious if they did.
Okay.
3 hours is a long time with someone. So if
Yeah.
you're completely full of SHIT,
Yeah.
it might be apparent.
But do you?
Tim Dillon won't swear on there. That's funny. Good for him. The thing about that is, I was at the mothership. There's this dude named Hassan. He's a brown guy, glasses, has crazy hair right now. It's like big, but it's bald here. And when he was on the podcast, before he started really, like, he's like killing it now. He's like, he was a killer before, but he's like really like in some kind of groove. He's amazing. And when I saw him on the podcast, I was like, oh, this guy's really a lefty. He's one of those lefties that doesn't want to be outwardly lefty, but you can hear by the certain things he says and the way that he thinks, you're like, oh, this is a very left-leaning. This is a leftist, this guy. And then by the time I saw him in the mothership, about probably 8 months had passed, maybe 9, maybe 10. And there was no signs of that at all. It was completely gone. Now, did he do that because he wants more opportunities at the mothership? Or is he just realizing it's way better to push the envelope than it is to try to tiptoe around certain subjects the way people on the left do? I think it's that. I think he was like, I'm at a place where I'm actually encouraged not to tiptoe, and I can just go for it. And now he's just going for it. I think maybe that's how Joe Rogan might mold what kind of comedy goes on at the mothership, because he's kind of pushing guys like, hey, there's no phones here, because they lock your phone up. There's no phones here. No one's going to be able to go and videotape what you're saying. Go all out. Do it. See what works. Go really test it. I mean, yeah, it's the stuff that Tony was saying, the stuff Joey Diaz was saying. It's wild stuff, but I don't know. I think that's, if anything, how he molds it. And then it's like, if someone like Joey Diaz is there, Andrew Schultz, and they're giving you tips, you see them at the bar, they're giving you tips. Joe Rogan can't control what kind of tips they're giving you about what you should do on stage. So he can't really control things. Comedy would be a really hard thing to control. It was easier to control back in the day when everybody wanted to do a sitcom. Everybody wanted to be Jerry Seinfeld, Ray Romano. Everybody wanted to walk that path. So you got controlled by the talent coordinators because they were connected to the agents and managers. And if they okayed you and they gave you more time, well, then this person would look at you and that. And then all of a sudden you got an agent and you got to walk that whole path. People don't want that anymore. People want their own podcast. They want to build up their following. They want that following to help them with ticket sales. Like, it's a completely different machine. But I don't know if Joe Rogan's responsible for that either. Let's move on to the next clip. I don't know if he's responsible for that either, because a lot of people will tell you Kevin Hart was one of the first people, Louis C.K., They were some of the first people. Kevin Hart, every show he would do, he would just collect email addresses. That's all he would do. He'd be like, give me your email. And he just kept on doing that. And whenever he had a show, he kept emailing people. And that's how he got, that and some, if I put on my tinfoil Speedo here, he probably did some other things behind the scenes. I mean, he was wearing a dress and stuff. But, the regular story is he gathered up so many emails, and that's how he got really big. Louis C.K., same thing. He stayed in touch via email. So is Joe Rogan the creator of that? I don't think so. I don't think he controls things that much. Now, here's where they talk about Joe Rogan controlling where people go on CNN or otherwise.
One comedian who was like kind of in that world,
Yes.
Fox, etc.
Yeah.
That I tried to interview. His manager told me that he wouldn't do an interview with me because Rogan would get mad at him for talking to CNN. And
That's untrue. That's completely insane.
Okay.
That's completely insane.
Okay.
That is completely nuts. He was afraid of you.
Oh, okay.
He thought you were going to come in and really rough him up or something. There's no such thing as Rogan would be mad at someone for talking. That's crazy.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. Okay.
No.
Good. I'll let him know.
You think that's how it works? Rogan sends emails. I know you don't.
I
think
would-
that, but that's a crazy thing. Like Rogan's like, "What are you doing? Oh, you're doing this? No, do Gutfeld instead." No one cares.
I mean,
No one cares what anyone does, and the idea. I think people think life's very interesting. We see this with the QAnon people,
Right.
Where they're like, there's tunnels, and you go, it's really just rich people.
Okay.
And you go, well, but they're doing all these terrible things. You go, absolutely, but they always have, and a lot of them always probably will if they can get away with it. But the levels of intrigue that people build around these things, I don't find that they're not that super interesting. You know?
I just want to be clear though.
But no,
This
that's
didn't
just very
come
funny.
from. It didn't
But
come
it
from
would
like
be
a
funny if
commenter.
he canceled my appearance because of this. I can't imagine any manager saying that. I mean, that's.
Oh no, the
crazy.
manager I spoke to directly. in
No,
person.
I believe that they did. It's just such a funny and ridiculous thing.
Okay.
To me.
All right. Well, that's
Yeah.
good to know. Do you think Rogan would talk to me?
I don't know. I mean, he's a big get.
I know.
He's a big
very
get.
important.
So I mean, you could try. I don't know if I had his money if I'd be doing any interview. I don't know if I'd be here. I think I would be on a boat. I probably wouldn't be doing a podcast. I'd be somewhere else. I don't know if you'd be able to find me with his level of income. I think I'd be gone.
Can you talk about you had Steve Bannon on pretty
Yes.
recently. You had JD Vance on in the fall.
Yes. We reached out to Bernie, said no, said he couldn't do it because of his schedule. We like and respect Bernie. We reached out to Tim Walz. No response.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
That's the way it always goes. Jordan Peterson talks about the exact same thing. Jordan Peterson is often talking to people on the right, and he talks about how he reaches out to people on the left, and he says 95% of the time they say no. And it's because they are not allowed to speak to him, because now they are now a person that's talking to someone who's problematic. And even for her, if she ever got on Joe Rogan's podcast, she's CNN, she's ex-Vice, or maybe she's still with Vice, and she works for CNN. She would get looked at a certain way. Oh, now you're talking to Joe Rogan? Oh, you want to be a part of that club? Oh, what are you going to start doing stand-up comedy soon? That's what would happen to her. It's very interesting the way that goes. But even more so, she says she talked directly to a manager in person, and that manager in person said, that comedian, whoever it is, can't come on the show, can't come on her interview because Joe Rogan would be mad. That's wild. Weird thing to say. Weird thing to say because Tim Dillon realizes that he knows who the comedian is, and he says, oh no, you're going to rough him up. So now Tim Dillon knows. Now Joe Rogan knows. See, and that's where there is a little bit of, there's talk. There's a grapevine of sorts. Because now Joe Rogan's going to know who that guy is. And he's going to say, why did your manager say that? Did you say that to your manager? And now that guy, there might be a little bit of tension between him, Rogan, and that comedian. Because you're making things up. Or he's telling the truth. I don't know. I think he's making things up, though. Let's move on to this next clip. This is them talking about who really has the power. Are the podcasters the new CIA? Let's check it out.
I ask because
Yeah.
do you feel like you're part of a new establishment that's being created?
I don't think I'm part of a new establishment. I think it would be pretty difficult to look at these podcasts. I know it's a popular thing right now, especially in certain media circles, to say that after running an incredibly unpopular candidate who was introduced very late in the race because an elderly man who could not be the president, who everyone told was functioning as the president for 4 years, decided to, this wind is wild, huh?
Yeah.
See? But this was a very specific circumstance in which Kamala Harris ran for the presidency.
Yeah.
She was somewhat unpopular, and she was not a star in Democratic politics before this at all. And her communication strategy was pretty weak. I think most people have admitted that. So to hang this defeat all on a few podcasts and to say that they were the problem, I just don't buy the narrative. So I don't think I'm a new establishment. If you weigh, again, a few comedians with podcasts versus all of the people that supported Kamala Harris, Democrat donors, billionaires, big people, if the idea is that me and a few comedians have more power than multi-billionaires, huge media institutions, a whole political party apparatus, I just don't think most people are going to buy that. I think it seems like a great way to excuse running an unpopular candidate on a platform that American people weren't sold on.
I think even beyond.
I think it's a little bit of both. I'm gonna stand up for this. Check out the new shirt. I might start selling this. If you know, the Leopard King. I think it's a little bit of both, because you can actually find direct connection between these lowly podcasters who are all multimillionaires. Theo Von at one point was making $40,000 a weekend doing stand-up, if you guys could believe that. Tim Dillon doesn't make quite that, but it's way more than what a regular person makes in a month, maybe even 2. So, I don't know. It's really, really hard to, that there's a connection between the billionaires, or at least one, and, Joe Rogan is connected to Elon Musk. Joe Rogan's connected to Dana White. Dana White's connected to Trump. Joe Rogan's now connected to Trump. Elon's connected to Trump. He's connected to Joe Rogan. He's connected to Tim Dillon. He's connected to Asmongold. He's connected to a bunch of people, Elon Musk, who are just podcasters or streamers. There's easy connections. Dana White's connected to the Full Send podcast, which is the Nelk Boys. The Nelk Boys are connected to even 6ix9ine, to Waka Flocka, they're connected to all sorts of people. It's not just like, oh, they're just podcasters. There is this maybe you say new establishment feel. The billionaires, at least one, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel as well. He understands, hey, he's connected to JD Vance. JD's connected to Rogan. JD's connected to Theo. JD's connected to Tim Dillon. There's this whole thing. There is a connection. You can make that argument. But then you'd have to also say that all those billionaires are paying down the way to those podcasters to do those interviews and to lean those ways politically. And I definitely think that happens on the left. And I'd be a bit of a hypocrite to say that can never happen on the right. I mean, I'm sure it does. A lot of people are claiming that there are conservative media outlets that are actually being paid by Qatar as we speak. That story's slowly breaking in the next few days. I mean, we already saw that whole thing with Tenet Media where, Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, they both adamantly denied any type of doing. They did not get pushed any way politically on any topic. They made that very, very clear in their podcasts and in their statements. But that was still a thing that happened, and it wasn't just them that were wrapped in it. It was a bunch of conservative outlets. My only question is, where's my money? Where's my money? That's my real concern. Why haven't I got a bunch of money yet from only some pro-Ukraine outlet has reached out to me. And I'm not doing that. I'm not. I looked at the numbers. This didn't make sense. It's actually a lot of money. I was like, oh, wow. Like, is this real? And it was, but I'm not doing it. Not doing it. No more money to Ukraine. But yeah. So there is a connection to be had. Now, those timestamps that I just showed you, one was at 3 minutes. One was at 11 minutes and 45 seconds where they talk about the manager. And that last one was at 19 minutes. Then there's one at 34 minutes where they actually start discussing the left-wing comedians that this woman claims that she can't see. It's definitely a cool interview. There are no timestamps in it, which is why I gave you those. Beyond that, it's just them talking. It's all very interesting. But, you know, me, I'm here. I'm focusing on the Joe Rogan stuff, of course. But again, this is what the interview is called. It's on CNN's channel. El Reeve to Tim Dillon. Do you think you're a part of the new establishment? And you know what? At the end of the day, I do think there is a new establishment. But I don't think it's as manufactured as it's been on the left and in the left-wing mainstream media. I think people are just starting to realize you have to go on these podcasts. You have to go and talk to people who disagree with you. You have to do it for an hour at a time. If you can do it, you have to do it at 3 hours. People want to see you on Joe Rogan. They want to see you on Tim Dillon. They want to understand. And also there's an understanding that those people have access to certain demographics. You know? I don't know. But Tim Dillon made sure to let everybody know that he is not paid by Qatar because, again, that story is developing. So he actually did make a statement on that. Here he is.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tim Dillon Show. Special report right now. The Free Press just put out an article how Qatar bought America. And they come to the conclusion, which I vehemently disagree with, that Qatar is spending money to influence things that are happening in America. Now, if that were true, there would be signs. And I think it's irresponsible for the Free Press to come out and just baselessly claim that Qatari money is flowing, you know, out of the spigot and we're all drenching ourselves here in it. That's completely untrue. I have not been bought. Does this look like a man who's been bought by Qatar? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tim Dillon Show.
And I believe him. I believe him, okay? I know it looks a little weird, but, you know, everybody dresses like that. It's a new thing. You didn't know that? I might be dressed like that tomorrow. Who knows? But anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys think of that whole thing. And again, I showed you the interview. Go and watch it. Watch the whole thing because CNN, kudos to them, did put the full 1 hour and 11 minutes out on YouTube. Unedited, it seems. I'd have to watch it again to really be sure because they can always do a little snip here, a little snip there. But it seems to be completely unedited. Good for them. I'm out.